My name is Sarah Hall, and I'm the reading specialist here at the Learning Liaisons. Before we jump into some concepts, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the Learning Liaisons YouTube channel. Always remember, it's not if you pass, it's when you pass. Competency 1 is the foundations of science of teaching reading. So skill A says that we need to demonstrate knowledge of scientifically based reading research. So we're going to go ahead and circle this so we remember we're digging into research here. We're digging into theories and practices, what we would call best practices in teaching. So we want to make sure that we have that lens on moving forward through this skill that we're looking at research. Also, it tells us we're looking at key findings. So it even gives us a few examples of where you could go to get some more information. Things like the National Reading Panel, National Early Literacy Panel. Those are things that you could go to and do some research, read through, and make sure that you're familiar with some recent findings, recent trends in reading research, but we're going to go through some of it together. Also, we're looking here, I want to pull this one out, minority children and youth. When we're talking about children and youth, we move forward through this thinking of all children, all youth. So make sure that you are also looking at all of this through the lens of diverse populations. Make sure that when we are talking about what's best for children and we are talking about differentiation, which we'll dig into a lot more later, that we're looking at what's best for all kids and all students, and that means within diverse populations, we're talking about students who are ESOL, we're talking about students who are ESE, we're talking about students that might have a lower socioeconomic status, children that are coming to us from maybe transient types of families where they're moving from one school to another, all kinds of things like that. So make sure that we're remembering, we're thinking about diverse populations here as we move forward as well. And then we're going to dig really deep into all of these. So I'm also going to go ahead and circle this part too, so that we can look at these different components that they're listing for us for literacy acquisition. So they have listed for us phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and text comprehension. We're going to stop and talk about what this is called. You're going to hear me say this a lot. We're going to call these the Fab Five. So these 5 areas or components of literacy acquisition, so we have phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. These Fab Five, if you will, are going to be things that we dig into really deeply later on in the different competencies. So we're going to hit all of these hard. But what I want you to know now is that these Fab Five are going to be the foundation of everything we talk about. I want to add one thing in as we're talking about and introducing the idea of the Fab Five here, because you're also going to hear me say this a lot too. We're going to call this actually the Fab Five plus 1. And that extra 1 is motivation. So since we're talking about research and we're looking at this with the lens of research and what's best for kids, researchers have added this extra 1 within the past few years here, and they're saying that even though we have these Fab Five and we're creating lessons and best practices and differentiating and scaffolding and if those are new words to you, differentiation means think of differentiation. We're doing different things for different kids to make sure that their needs are being met. Scaffolding. When we talk about scaffolding, think of a ladder or scaffolding that you would see on the side of a building. It creates support. And that's what we're doing also for students. We're creating levels of support so that they can find success in their zone of proximal development. I'm going to throw that up here too, because we're talking about research. We're talking about theorists and theories as we're moving forward here. The zone of proximal development tells us that we need to find where students are going to find success. We want them to be able to be successful, but with our support. So we call that also, I'm throwing a lot at you already, but this is all important stuff. We're calling this their instructional level. So it's their area where with instruction, with us there, they're finding success. We also call this like I said, the zone of proximal development, the ZPD. And this is also where I always tell people as an educator, as a teacher, this is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, because this is where you're going to be able to help your students find success, but you're also going to see growth because you're there with them. Think of instructional level, the instructor is there, you're there with them, and you're offering that support so that they can be successful, but yet they're also growing because you're there helping them. All right, so we've hit a lot already. We've hit ZPD, zone of proximal development. We've talked about scaffolding over here. We're looking at reading research, and now we're at our Fab 5. So research tells us that even if you hit all 5 of these areas hard and you are making sure that your students are getting explicit systematic instruction in these 5 foundational areas, it's not going to do any good unless you add that extra one, and that's the component of motivation. We need our kids to be engaged, and we need them to be motivated to learn. So keep that in mind, write that down, Fab 5 plus 1, Fab 5 plus motivation. We're going to talk about that a lot. We're going to dig into these in our other competencies, but in the back of your mind, be thinking of that Fab 5 plus motivation as we move forward here. We're also going to be looking at the essential roles that oral language, writing, and motivation play. And there it is right there, guys. Look, motivation, that extra one that's so important in these foundational skills. For promoting reading development for students in pre-kindergarten through 3rd grade. All right, let's keep going.